Okay, real talk. 10 years ago, your best friend took a job you felt sorry for. 72,000 a year, a cubicle, a lanyard with his own face laminated on it. You said no to that. You bet on yourself. And tonight, the two of you finally put your bank apps on the same table. It doesn't go the way either of you thought it would. Same year, same degree, same nothing. No money, no contacts, no plan worth the name. Two 24-year-olds standing at the same fork, and one of you went left and one of you went right, and for 10 years neither of you really looked at the other one's road. He took the real job, you took the risk. And every single year since, at some family thing or some birthday, somebody has asked you both how it's going, and you have both said good, and only one of you was checking the number after. So here's what we're doing tonight. 10 years, rung by rung. Every raise, every zero, every invoice that went unpaid, every 15th of the month his money landed whether he showed up excited or not. And somewhere in the middle of it, you're going to find out something about his boring little job that you did not know. There was a second paycheck inside it. He never saw it either. Nobody ever showed either of you. And it is the entire reason those two screens don't say what you assumed they'd say. Fair warning, this one doesn't have a villain. That's what makes it sting. And before the night's over, I'm going to ask you the only question this was ever really about. Not who won. This one. If you could take his 10 years, all of them, the whole decade, exactly as he lived it, and hand him yours, would you? Don't answer yet. You haven't earned the question. Live the 10 years first. Year 1. He signs. $72,000 a year. A desk on the 4th floor. A laminated badge on a blue lanyard that he loops over a hook by his door every night like it's a coat. And you, real talk, you pitied him, not out loud. You're not cruel. But you felt it, that little warm superior thing in your chest, watching your friend hang a plastic rectangle on a hook. You thought, he sold it. 24 years old and he sold the whole thing for 72 grand and a hook by the door. And you? You went home to a folding desk. No badge, no hook, no floor number. Just a laptop and a picture in your head of a life where nobody tells you when the day starts. That first year, he made $72,000. You made $11,420. Not 11 for a month. For the year. And you didn't care. That's the part people forget about year 1. You genuinely, honestly did not care because you weren't comparing bank accounts. You were comparing lives. And on that scoreboard, you were up by a mile. One night that first winter, you're at his place and his pay stub is sitting on the counter. You pick it up. Not because you care, because it's there. And it's this ridiculous document. Gross pay. Federal. State. Then a whole column of little line items you don't recognize. Each one a few $100s, and next to a couple of them the word employer. You put it down. You make a joke about how it takes a whole page to tell him he got paid. Yours takes a notification. 2 words and a number. Payment received. That's it. No columns, nothing itemized, nothing to read. 10 years from now, you will think about that piece of paper almost every week. That spring, there's a wedding. Somebody's cousin. And an aunt corners you by the food and asks what you actually do, and you say freelance, and she says, yes, but what do you do? And you explain it twice, and she nods the way people nod at a weather report for a city they'll never visit. Then she finds him, and he says the name of a company, and she says, oh, that rising, satisfied, oh, and squeezes his arm. And you're not hurt. That's the honest part. You're amused. You sit down with your plate and you think, she has no idea. She thinks he's the one with the plan. 10 years later, at a different table, you will do the arithmetic and discover the aunt was right. Not for her reasons. She was right by accident, the way people usually are. His deposit lands on the 15th. He doesn't even look. Years 2 and 3. It works. It actually works. The thing everybody told you wouldn't work works. A retainer client. Then a second one. Then a month. One glorious month, where you invoice $9,200 and you sit in your chair afterward with your hands off the keyboard, not touching anything, just looking at it. 9 grand. In a month. He makes $6,200 a month, and he cannot make more, because that is what the number on the offer letter says, and the offer letter does not care how good a month he had. So for a while there, and this is true, this is real, don't let the end of this story take it from you. You are winning. On the only scoreboard either of you can see, you are ahead. He gets a raise that year, 2.8%, 74,800. He tells you about it at dinner, and there's this apology in his voice, like he's embarrassed by the size of it, and you say, "That's great, man," and you mean it, and also, "Heh, you had a Tuesday that year that beat his raise." $2,080. That's what a year of showing up bought him. He had to go into a room and be told it by a person who had to go into another room to ask permission to tell him. And you watch him decide to be grateful for it. That's the thing you can't stop watching. Not that he got too grand, that he had to decide how to feel about a number somebody else picked. You go home and you raise your own rate that night. From 65 an hour to 80. It takes 11 seconds and a text message and nobody has to go into any room at all. That is the single most intoxicating moment of your 20s. And I want to be fair to it. You were right. That was real. Nobody was ever going to hand him that. 61,300 that third year. Against his 74.8. You lost on the year. You won on the ceiling. And you decide, without ever saying it out loud, that the ceiling is the thing that matters. Because a ceiling is a promise about the future and a salary is just a fact about the present. Hold on to that. It's the most reasonable wrong idea you will ever have. Because a number you can see isn't the same as a number that stays. His deposit lands on the 15th. He doesn't even look. Year 4. The biggest client goes quiet. Not fired. Not fought with. Quiet. A reorg somewhere above the person you talk to and the work just stops arriving. You send a friendly email. You send a less friendly email. You send the invoice for the work you already did. Net 30. Day 30 comes. Day 40 comes. The silence isn't cruel. It's just absence. And absence doesn't pay rent. You rewrite the follow-up email 4 times. 4. You take out the word just. You put back the word just. You add a smiley face, and then you sit there and look at the smiley face and you take it out. Because there is nothing on this earth less funny than a smiley face on an invoice for $4,200 you already earned. Then you do the thing you swore you'd never do at 24. You apologize, in writing. For asking to be paid for work you finished 5 weeks ago. Sorry to Chase. Sorry to Chase. Read it back. You are apologizing to a company for the crime of having done what they asked. Rent is due on the 1st regardless. So the card covers it. $2,200 onto a card, which is not a plan. It's a postponement wearing a plan's clothes. And that's the month you learn the actual difference between the two of you. It was never the money. It was the timing. He gets paid on a date. You get paid on a mood. March, $2,100. April, $860. May, 0. Not low. 0. A whole month of a human life where the number that came in was the same number you'd have made asleep. And here's the thing about a 0. And nobody tells you this at 24 when you're busy being brave. A 0 doesn't just cost you that month. It reaches backward. It goes into your good months and takes from them. That $9,000 month you framed in your head, half of it just became May. The peak didn't survive. The peak got spent by the valley. His line does not have valleys. That's not a personality trait. It's not discipline. It's the shape of the thing he signed. On the 15th of May, his money lands. $6,200 minus the columns into the account of a man who spent that month doing roughly what you did, sitting at a desk waiting for something to happen. You are not lazier than him. You are not worse than him. You never were. You're just unhedged. His deposit lands on the 15th. He doesn't even look. You look 4 times before noon. Okay, this part's worth slowing down for. Year 5, you get sick. Properly sick. The flu that flattens you for 6 days. And on day 2, you open the laptop in bed because the arithmetic is very simple and very loud. You do not get paid to be sick. You have never gotten paid to be sick. The concept does not exist in your life. 6 days. You bill nothing. You lose. And you actually work this out later with a calculator because you're the kind of person who works this out. $1,418. That's what having a virus cost you. He gets the same flu that winter. He is out 4 days. He is paid for all 4. Not a bonus, not a favor, not his boss being nice. It's a line in his contract. It's called PTO, paid time off. 25 days a year, 15 of vacation, 10 of holidays, where money arrives in his account for the specific, explicit reason that he did not work. 25 days. You have never had one. Not one. In 10 years. And you know the sensible thing. You know it while you're doing the opposite. The sensible thing is to close the laptop, because the work you produce on day 2 of a fever is work you will delete on day 9. You do not close the laptop. You sit there and you produce $1,400 worth of garbage in order to not lose $1,400, and both of those numbers are the same number, and this is somehow not funny at the time. Being sick is a cost he doesn't pay. Being sick is a cost you pay twice. Once in the money you don't earn, and once in the days you don't get back because you spent them working badly. He's on his sofa watching something stupid, fully paid. You're in bed, fully awake, doing arithmetic. And you realize, lying there with a fever and a laptop, that you have never once counted this. It never entered a single calculation you've ever done about whether this was working. It was in his pay all along. Nobody printed it on anything. It was just there, the way air is there. That's the first one. There are more. So one night, years later, but let's do it here, because here is where it would have changed things. You sit down with that pay stub. The ridiculous one. The one that takes a whole page to say he got paid. And this time you read the column that says, employer. $72,000 is what his offer letter said. Here's what his employer actually pays to have him. Salary, $72,000, the match. He puts money aside for later, and his employer adds money on top of it, 4%, $2,880 a year, for no reason except that he exists on the payroll. Nobody adds anything on top of anything for you, ever, not once. Health coverage. He pays $140 a month and thinks that's what it costs. It isn't. His employer pays $599 a month on top, $7,188 a year, and it never appears in his brain as money because it never appears in his account. You buy yours. Retail. Full price. Alone. Payroll tax. 15.3% split down the middle. His employer pays half. $5,508. You pay both halves. Both. Yours is called self-employment tax, and it is exactly the same tax. And you pay the employer's half because, hey, congratulations, you're the employer. Disability in life, $612. If a bus hits him, money keeps arriving. If a bus hits you, the invoice stops. Add it. $88,188. That's what his $72,000 job costs. $16,188 a year that he is paid and never sees, never counts, never thanks anyone for. Plus, 25 days he's paid for not working. For 10 years, you compared your gross to his gross. You were never comparing the same thing. You were racing a man whose real number was 16 grand higher than the one on the sign. A salary isn't one paycheck, it's a dozen you never see. And freedom means buying every single one of them at retail. That's not an argument for the job. Wait for the end before you decide what it's an argument for. Look, if your pay stub is 2 words and a number, payment received, then nobody has ever itemized your life either. This is the channel that keeps the other ledger. Subscribe, and I'll keep counting the paychecks nobody prints. Now, the match. Every year he puts a slice of his salary aside, and his employer drops that $2,880 on top. And it sits there. And over 10 years, it does what money does when it sits somewhere and gets fed every single month without fail. It grows. Not because he's clever. He isn't clever. He has never once read a book about this. It grew because it was never interrupted. And you? You have a retirement plan. It's a sentence. The sentence is, I'll do it properly in a good year. Year 6 is a good year. Year 6 is a great year. And in year 6, the tax bill arrives, and it is the largest single number you have ever transferred to anyone in your life. And you look at the good year money, and you look at the tax bill, and there's no argument to have. $49,312. That's the transfer. You do it on a Thursday morning, and then you go for a walk, because you cannot be in the room with your own laptop. And here's the cruelty of the jagged line, the one nobody warns you about. The tax bill is calculated on the good year. It arrives in the year after the good year, which means it lands, with perfect comic timing, right when the good year has stopped. That's called a quarterly estimated. You're supposed to pay it in 4 pieces, in advance, on a schedule, based on a guess about money you have not yet earned from clients who have not yet said yes. Guess low, the penalty fines you. Guess high, you have lent the government money for nothing out of a bank account that has already survived one May. There is no version of this that is restful. He has never heard the word estimated in his life. It happens to him automatically, out of the column he doesn't read, on the 15th while he doesn't look. So he's saved without deciding to. You decided to save and didn't. He wasn't more disciplined than you. His discipline was automatic and someone else's. Yours had to be summoned every year, out of a bank balance that was a different size every single month, in a month you couldn't predict, against a tax bill you couldn't see coming. That is not a character flaw. That's just what a jagged line does to a person. His deposit lands on the 15th. He doesn't even look. Year 5, he buys a house. Nothing grand. 3 bedrooms, a yard the size of a parking space, a kitchen from the 90s. And he gets the loan on a Tuesday afternoon with almost no drama at all, because he walked in with 2 pay stubs and a letter from his employer, and the entire machine looked at that boring piece of paper and said, "Verified." You apply too that same year. Bigger savings than him. Genuinely. More cash in your account on the day than he had on his. Denied. Not for having no money, for having no shape. 2 years of returns. That zigzag, no employer letter, no stub, income that a computer somewhere cannot verify because it doesn't arrive on the 15th of anything. And this is where the story you've been telling yourself since you were 24 quietly falls apart. You always said a salary was a leash. That was the whole thesis. He's on a leash and you're not. But that Tuesday, the leash was a key. His boring paper opened a door that your bigger number couldn't. The thing you pitied him for, the badge, the hook, the 15th of the month, that was the thing the world had decided to trust. Nobody was punishing you. The machine just doesn't have a box for you. It never did. You go to the housewarming. You bring a plant. You are genuinely, entirely happy for him. That's not a performance. And if you're the kind of person who assumed it was, you've never had a friend like this. But you stand in his kitchen with a paper cup of coffee, and you look at a ceiling that belongs to him, and something recalculates quietly in the back of your head. Not envy. Something colder and more useful than envy. You had been keeping score with a number, and the world, it turns out, keeps score with a shape. Regularity, predictability, the boring, unglamorous, deeply un-Instagrammable quality of being the same size every month. He is not better with money than you. Genuinely, he is worse. He's never negotiated anything in his life. He has a savings account and a shrug, but the world hands its keys to the 15th of the month, and he lives there. He is not freer than you. You are not richer than him, not anymore. Feel the question move here. Somebody offers you the swap tonight. This denied loan, this bigger balance the machine won't trust, for his verified, boring 3-bedroom life. You're not so quick anymore, are you? Keep going. You haven't finished paying for the answer. Year 6, the one you'd put on a poster, $180,000, gross. 2 enormous clients, 1 insane 6-month stretch, a wait list to hire you. And for exactly 1 year, you make more than double what your friend makes, and you feel every bit of it. He made $79,200 that year. You won. Say it, because it's true. You won that year, outright, no asterisk, and it was the sweetest thing. Then, self-employment tax on the whole thing, both halves, because you're the employer, remember? Your own health coverage, paid retail, 12 months of it. And then the part nobody puts on the poster, you refill the runway. The zeros from year 4 are still open wounds. The lean stretch in year 5 ate the emergency fund, so the first $41,000 of your poster year doesn't buy you anything at all. It goes backward, into holes that already happened. Of $180,000, what stays with you is $71,400, which is a wonderful year. It's a genuinely wonderful year. It's also, and you don't notice this for another 4 years, about $9,000 less than what it cost to employ your friend, in a year where you tripled his gross. And here's the sentence that ends this beat, and I want it to be quiet. It never happened again. Years 7, 8, 9. Nothing dramatic. That's the whole horror of it. There's no crash, no collapse, no story. You have good years and thin years. You bill 110, then 64, then 96. You are, by any honest measure, good at this. And his flat, boring, unimpressive line, no zeros, 10 straight years of a match nobody thanked, a house quietly doing what houses do, crosses above yours, and it does not come back down. The lanyard, the plastic rectangle on the hook, the thing you felt sorry for. 16,000 invisible dollars a year, 25 paid days, a match he never asked for, a door that opened on a Tuesday. It out-earned you. It out-earned you quietly for 10 years without ever once looking like it was winning. His deposit landed on the 15th. Every 15th. 120 of them. He never once looked. And you can feel what's coming, can't you? You felt it since the first zero. But you don't get to say it here, in a living room, in your own head, where it's cheap. You have to say it at the table, with the screens facing up, with him sitting there. So, the cafe, the 2 phones, the 2 cups, one of them cold now, because this took a while. $308,600. The match, 10 years of it, never interrupted. The house doing quietly what the house did. A savings account that has never once been rated to survive a May. $118,900. $189,700. And do the arithmetic on where it came from, because it matters. $16,188 a year. Invisible. For 10 years. That alone is $161,880 of that gap. The rest is what the holes ate. But the invisible part, the 16 grand, that's the part that was sitting on a piece of paper on his counter the whole time. That's the part you could have seen coming. And you never once looked at the column. That's not a number. Let me put clothes on it. That's 6.5 years of your rent. That's every dollar you have ever kept from every client who ever paid you twice, and then some. That's a house deposit and a car, and 11 months where you would never once check the app before buying groceries. And now you say it. Out loud, at the table, with the number sitting right there in your hands where you can't argue with it. By every number you can write down, he won. Say it plainly. No but, no well, actually. No reframe where the freelancer secretly comes out ahead because of some spreadsheet trick or some line about time being the real currency. He won. The man you pitied at 24 has more money than you, more security than you, and this is the one that actually stings, more rest than you, more evenings. His job ended at 6. Yours ends when you stop, and you never stop. Give him all of it, every hour of it. He earned the rest, and you didn't get any. And notice what didn't happen. There was no mistake. Point to it. Where's the error? Where's the moment you were careless? You worked harder than him. You were better at the actual craft than him. You out-earned him in 3 separate years. You never blew money on anything ridiculous. You did every single thing the story says you're supposed to do, and the story still ended this way, which means you don't get the comfortable version. The comfortable version is that he won because you messed up somewhere, and if you find the somewhere, you can fix it and the number comes back. There's no somewhere. He won because the shape of his 10 years had no holes in it, and yours did, and the holes ate the peaks, and every single thing that filled his holes was invisible, automatic, and included. He didn't beat you. The structure did. He just happened to be standing inside it. That's what the fork cost. That's the price of the road you took, printed out, in a cafe on a Tuesday next to a cold coffee. And he's not gloating. That's the thing. He's just sitting there, a little embarrassed, turning his cup around. Now, I'm not going to cope at you. This isn't the part where I take the number back. The number is real. He won the number. But there is a second ledger, and it is not a consolation prize, and nobody itemizes it either. So let's do that too, because we just did his. So read your employer column. You have one too. Nobody printed yours either. Roughly 500 Tuesday afternoons. Yours. Not off, not requested, not approved by anybody, just yours, in the middle of the week, in the sunlight, while the entire 4th floor sat under a ceiling tile. The 6 weeks you worked from your mother's kitchen when she was ill and nobody had to say yes, and nobody had to be told, and there was no form. You moved your whole working life 200 miles on a Sunday, and the only person you informed was a client, and you informed them. You did not ask them. 10 years, not one permission. You have not asked a human being to let you be somewhere since you were 24. The Wednesday you woke up and simply did not work. Not sick, not on holiday, just done. That day at 11 in the morning by your own authority. Nobody signed that. Nobody logged it. It cost you, honestly, about $600, and no ledger anywhere on earth recorded that you bought it. Add it. It doesn't add. There's no total line. And not because the number is 0, because the second ledger has no units. He got a figure, you got a blank exactly the same size, and no exchange rate between them has ever existed. That's the whole problem. That's been the problem for 10 years, in a cafe, on a Tuesday, and neither of you knew you were holding two different kinds of paper. And the thing that doesn't fit on either ledger, for 10 years, the work has been yours. Every ugly logo, every rescued deadline, every client who came back. Nobody above you took the credit and nobody below you took the blame, because there is nobody above you and nobody below you. That's not worth $189,700. I'm not going to tell you it is. I don't know what it's worth. Neither do you. That's precisely the problem with the second ledger. It has no units. And in the cafe, when it's all on the table, he says the thing you did not expect. He says he took 4 days off when his father died. 4. That's what the policy said. He counted them. And then he says, you'd have taken as long as you needed. And he says it like a man reading a line item off a stub he's never been shown. A salary isn't one paycheck. It's a dozen you never see. And it turns out freedom isn't one either. So, the question I planted before you'd earned it. You've lived the 10 years now. Here it is again, and this time, you have to answer. If you could take his 10 years, the $308,000, the house, the match, the door that opened on a Tuesday, and give him yours, would you? Sit with it. Don't answer fast, because he was asked the same question in the same cafe over the same cold coffee, and he didn't answer fast either. And then neither of you switched. 10 years, $189,700, and a laminated badge on a hook, and neither of you switched. He won the part you can write down. Say it one more time because it's true and because everybody else in this business would have lied to you about it by now. The other part has no number. And I'm not going to invent one for you. That's the trick everybody plays to make you feel better. And I told you at the start I wouldn't. The only thing either of you got wrong was thinking there was one ledger. Neither of you switched. That's the only thing this story actually proved. So now you, same cafe, same 2 phones, same cold coffee. Would you switch? One word, yes or no. Say it below, and say it before you read what anybody else said. Next time in the FOIL files, you finally hire someone, one person, $1,200 a month, and you find out what it feels like to be the one who owns the 15th of the month, and what it does to you when the money has to be there whether the work showed up or not. This is quiet money,